What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Den of Geek studio. I'm Mike Cicchini, and I have with me today the creative team behind Justice League Warworld, the latest entry in the Tomorrowverse of the DC animated movies. Fellas, why don't you introduce yourselves to everybody? Let us know what you did on Justice League Warworld. Then we're going to dive into this ambitious and cool animated project.
I'm Jim Krieg. I'm one of the producers and I'm the writer wrangler. I got the very talented Josie Campbell and Ernie Altbacker and Jeremy Adams to write this and for these handsome men.
I'm Jeff Wamister. I'm the director.
I'm Butch Lukic, the executive producer. I do the show running and finalize everything. It takes me 9 bloody months to do. Jeff has to deal with probably about 6 months of that.
I'm in there for about 10 minutes. I got about 10 minutes. But my name's up there with everybody else.
Yeah.
You can wrangle writers in 10 minutes. Can you come work for us, please?
Yeah, I have like a whisk.
The first thing that struck me about Justice League Warworld was it was not the approach that I was expecting for...
Did we ruin your childhood?
Yeah,
we get
absolutely.
That a lot.
Yeah,
we get that a lot.
But I love the fact that it was, you know, these individual vignettes before we get into what is actually happening. And the first two especially could stand on their own, just be released as little short films, which I thought was fascinating. Like, first 5 minutes, I was wondering if I was watching the right thing. So
funny you should mention that. A lot of the creatives were talked about, it'd be great to do a little tour of the DC universe. And so we started doing shorts that, you know, we got to do with the Commandy and the Losers. And we thought we'd be able to keep doing those. And it would have kind of built up a whole little tour of the DC characters. And then a home video was like, well, you don't have to do all those shorts. And we were trying to figure out how we could do.
Right.
You know.
I mean, we needed more characters to build up our universe. So this was one of the approaches that we were talking about, where if we present Warworld, we can bring in other characters from the DC universe that are also, you know, trapped there. So that was the initial thought. Everything else was about genres. I mean, I figured there's no chance in hell we'll ever be able to get DC to buy it, you know, do a Western or a barbarian movie, or even, you know, something in black and white 1950s. So I figured lump them all together, they'll say, yeah.
When we were talking about it, it was Halloween, and I tried to stream some Hammer horror movies, but you had to pay for them, and I'm really cheap. But I could find Amicus movies. They're just like one down from Hammer, and a lot of those were like a portmanteau of
they're
like short stories.
Yeah.
So it'd be like, you know, people get on a train and each one tells a story. And this is a little bit kind of like in that. How do you make one movie that's a bunch of little stories, which. Yeah,
and he kept bugging me. He's going, "Do you have any Amicus films?" I mean, why? Well, let me borrow them.
You had the whole box set of.
Yeah, I didn't want to give them to him.
That is probably why.
Because I'll never get them back.
That's true.
I really appreciate, too, how in those first two, it's almost like a tour of... So when I was a kid, if I would buy an old comic, if I would buy like a comic at, you know, it's like, okay, I'm going to just get like an issue of Superman from maybe before I was born or even a couple years earlier, like some of the early 80s, late 70s, whatever. And there would be all these house ads for characters that I had never heard of, you know, like Jonah Hex and Batlash.
Batlash is coming.
And the Warlord.
Yeah.
And look, to this day, I've never read a Warlord comic, which is like a failing of mine. But seeing these characters on screen...
It's not too late, Michael.
Clearly. But I just love, it really felt like not just a tour of the DC universe, but like a very specific era of DC publishing in a way.
Yeah, it was right when we stopped reading.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for us. I mean, I read pretty much, I think, all the way up to issue 110 of Warlord. I'm one of the only ones.
That was the day. It was like...
I was reading some of that.
Yeah, and then they canceled it.
Yeah.
I think around mid-'80s, early 80s. And then even Jonah Hex, you know, it was all Western, but it wasn't selling. So then in the 80s, they tried to make him Mad Max, and that didn't work, so...
But here's a lot of special characters that a next generation can get addicted to.
the depiction of Warworld itself, like Warworld is having a moment in the comics right now, which is kind of cool. There's been a great arc in Action Comics that's like really zeroed in on it. I've always thought there's a lot of potential in that, in that concept. But the way it's presented here is so unique, and the version of Mongol, like the design and everything, is terrifying. Like it's really kind of like he's more than just a big scary alien. There's
in
something
shorts.
really unsettling about him in this. So I want to know, like, not just about him, but as you were designing the look of all of this, you just keep handing the microphone off. Or
Say something, Jeff.
Well, no, but he had a hand in that too.
You got to put it up
about
here.
it. Oh, we talked about it because Mongol, the original Mongol, it's just a hulky looking retread of dark side. So I felt, well, if we're going to change anything that's not, going to hold tradition, why not Mongol? But I did get kickback from DC. They didn't want me to do it, so I just didn't listen to them.
They have that warehouse full of Mongol action figures that they're trying to unload.
Yeah, they're still hoping they'll sell those.
I think we were looking at it too, is we didn't want to repeat so that you're getting the same villain and all these superheroes. So we wanted to give him a silhouette that you could be like, you could connect to in a different way rather than having the same, this is the giant here, enemy that we have to deal with. We wanted to go, this is different, so that you're not reacting the same way to the same just beefy dude. So I thought it was really important.
Yeah, and you're seeing the style and the design of him based on what he's actually trying to achieve for thousands of years. So it's probably draining him, his powers.
Speaking to that difference that you're talking about, this is such a non-traditional way to do a getting the team together story. Was there ever a point when you're like, okay, it's time for us to assemble the Justice League in this? Were there other story tracks that you thought about taking before you went this less traditional route?
Yeah, I mean, we have the Justice League start way before this, but you only see pockets of them. But they've been basically together for probably 3 or 4 years at that point. And then the issue was, well, the ones that got kidnapped and sent to Warworld, that's, the first two you see, which is Superman and Batman at the end of Legion of Superheroes. And then you'll see who else has been taken. But it's still not going to be the full Justice League group. It's still limited to who got captured and who's still on Earth.
We knew we had a finite number of films, so we didn't want to just play it out chronologically, like this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, because we had so much respect for our audience that we knew that they would be able to wrap their head around.
Well, here's the other real thing as far as production. There's only a certain amount of voices that we can hire per movie. So if we had the full, every Justice League member plus all the secondary characters, there's no way we couldn't do it.
And plus, we're going to have to establish each one of those characters. We can't just throw them into the movie because, we want them to be in there. We have to very carefully, when we're adding each one of these characters and we're giving them stakes, that they have the time to do that. If we're trying to squeeze 5 people into it, all at once and say, they're together, and try to piece that together, it's going to undercut the story that needs to be there.
I like dead silence in my scripts, which when Jim writes them.
That's why you hang out with Jeff.
Yeah, I just cut the
He
lines.
just cuts out every other line and puts in silence. I don't know why. But the audience today is, because we live in a strangely blessed with superheroes world, there's a idea that all of these cost hundreds of millions of dollars and you can do anything you want. You can put in as many characters as you want and as many locations. And so we'll write that draft. I give it to Butch. He said, no, we can't do that. So because we don't have any money. These are movies that are done on a budget. And so when one character gives an order to the other, if they just go like this instead of saying, I'm on it, Superman, it's because we didn't have money for that.
Yeah, and it's locations. I mean, when there's too many locations in the script, we do have to pare it down. Jeff has to do a lot of that in the boards because we just can't have that many locations. So you do work it out based on more feasibility or, probably the cost, but also, the best way forward for the story.
The final movie is just all the Justice League on a couch talking out their problems. And even then, they don't all talk.
So obviously this ends on a pretty significant cliffhanger. how far away are we from resolving this?
Started the next movie, and that's kind of the next phase to finality for this series for us.
And maybe our careers.
Yeah, exactly. Whoever takes over after this, good luck.
Best of luck to you, fellas. I hope.
They have rooms at the DC retirement community where we're looking at rooms even as.
We're actually the Three Stooges.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. I really did enjoy Justice League Warworld. Best of luck with the launch and the premiere
thanks.
tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.